Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Visual and Audio Experiences track. Really excited to have you here in the room. Before we get started, I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Sheena Badani. I am based here locally in San Diego. I'm the founder of RevAura. We are a B2B experiences company, so we specifically create executive experiences for B2B brands that build pipeline and build community. And now, if you want to learn more, you can check out revaura.co. And more importantly to our session today, how to show up in AI search when everything's changing. Very timely and relevant topic. I'm thrilled to welcome on stage Lindsay Boyajian Hagan. She is the VP of Global Marketing at Conductor. Let's give her a round of applause.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, hey everyone, welcome. As mentioned, I'm Lindsay Boyajian Hagan. I am the VP of Marketing at Conductor. For those that may not know Conductor, we've been around for 10 plus years. We're the leaders in AEO, but our roots are deep in search. We have amazing global customers, and so today I want to share a little bit about what we've heard and what we've been hearing from our customers, what they're doing about AI search, how they've evolved their content and digital marketing strategies for AI search, and how y'all can think about your strategies, and then also some of the tactics and blueprints that can help you win in this kind of new era of search that's upon us. Everything is changing, and I'm sure that's why a lot of you are in the room today. Traffic is down, I think, for the first time for those who have been in the search space for a long time. It's not often you see SEO, AEO, GEO, all these topics in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the big publications, but there's a big shift that's happening. Gartner is reporting or predicting that traffic will be down 50% in the next 2 years for brands. That's huge. For marketers, when we think about our metrics, we think about our metrics pack, how we're measuring our performance. Traffic is one of the big things we measure, and one of the big ways we judge how we're doing, and one of the big ways that we fill the funnel. And so if traffic's going down, that's a problem. And the data on the left here is data from Conductor that talks a little bit about how traffic's actually been declining already. So this isn't something that's coming. Many of you may already have had traffic declines. So on the left, you can see traffic declines by industry since last October. I mean, raise a hand. Any folks here seeing traffic declines this year so far? Yeah. 70, 80, maybe 90% of folks with hands up. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's what we're seeing across our customer base as well. Some seeing upwards of 10, 20, 30% traffic declines in some industries. Some seeing a little bit more conservative, but overall folks are seeing traffic declines as zero-click search. So as Google keeps folks on their on Google more, as folks are going to other places to find answers. But the good news is the traffic that is coming from the LLM. So as you think about folks going into ChatGPT or Perplexity or Grok, wherever they may be going these days, although they may not be clicking every single time, the traffic that is coming to those sites is more qualified than ever, meaning the traffic that's coming is converting at 4x, 5x, 6x in some cases higher rate. And that's what you can see on the right-hand side there of just the different ways that traffic is converting. So there is no doubt that we are in a time of change, and we'll talk a little bit about what we can do there. But the big challenge for brands is that you can no longer just buy attention. In a lot of ways in the past, oh, my SEO practice isn't great, my search practice isn't great, I don't have a big content team. No problem, let's throw money at the problem. You just go buy your ads. Fine, this can band-aid a solution. But in the world of LLMs, in the world of AI, you're not going to be able to just throw money at the problem, and you have to get really good at content. And you have to get really good at content creation at scale, which we'll talk about. Okay, so let's double click in and talk a little bit about double click in and what's changing in search, because this is all going to impact how we're thinking about the content that we're creating. Okay, so traditional search, we all know this. You would put in a keyword, your traditional query into keywords, 3 to 5 words. Best running shoes. Best running shoes for women. Best running shoes for men. But now folks are having deep, long conversations with these search engines, with the AI engines, where it's really conversational. The average prompt is 23 words. So there's a lot of implications for us as content creators, as marketers, around the personalization and the personas that we'll need to think about creating content for, which we'll talk about in a bit. And then the other critical difference in AI search is how AI search thinks about topics. So in the past, historically, we've relied really heavily on keywords, and keywords just are essentially matching different topics, they're related. It's very simple. So do the keywords on this page match with the keywords that are being typed in? Yes or no? Very simple. AI is totally different, and it's much more sophisticated. I like to think about it, I'm not a technical person, so I like to think about it as a simple GPS coordinate, where LLMs actually can map different words and their semantic meaning to understand the intent. So very different as a marketer when you think about traditional keywords versus prompts. Traditional keywords are a really simple way to do it, and so we have to start thinking about prompts and topics, which we'll talk a lot about later. And then in the old world, in the world we've all grown up in, we've had sort of this finite world of personas. You have your 3 personas, you have your 3 stages of the buyer's journey, you map your content against it, you can find your gaps. It's simple in some ways. Obviously, we know as practitioners it can be more complicated than that. But in a lot of ways, it looks something like this. But in the world of LLMs, you're going to have more personas, more stages of the journey, more personalized queries than ever before. And so that poses a lot of challenges for us as marketers around creating enough content, but also opportunities. And again, we'll get to all that. I would be remiss if I did not talk about the more technical, the technical pieces of behind your content. It's one thing. The big thing that we need to think about when it comes to LLMs is they need to understand our content, and the best way for them to understand their content is making sure it's really structured and easy for them to understand. So that means having really good and clear schema markup. We've all, I'm sure, heard of schema markup. Some of us may feel more comfortable with it than others or have better teams that are more comfortable with that for us, but schema is so important, and making sure we have great meta descriptions, metadata, very important in the world of LLMs, structured data. And then there are some great sessions throughout the day around Reddit and Quora and sort of all the partner ecosystem and why it's so important when it comes to AI search, but do want to just make sure we touch down on this for a moment. The LLMs are hungry for content. We just saw there's billions and billions of combinations of people and queries and prompts and topics, and what the LLMs need is they need content to actually serve to those users. And so it's not that Quora and Reddit and all these forums have the best answer every time, but they have so much content. And so a lot of times when customers are searching for your brands, they're seeing Reddit, Quora, forum. So these are all places you and your teams have to start thinking about partnering with your PR teams and your other parts of your organization to think about what is our strategy around these sort of other partners and publishers that we should be working with to make sure that when our customers are searching, if they're not finding our content, they're finding content that we've influenced, and they're not finding a competitor or finding an answer from 10 years ago that's not really relevant to our brand anymore. So something just for put in everyone's, get everyone thinking about. And then lastly, when we think about search and what's changing, the metrics. And we'll talk about this and what we should be measuring and what y'all want to be measuring, but the metrics are changing. We have all probably shown at a board meeting or in a team meeting, traffic up to the right. Ooh, that's great, 15%, 5% growth. Oh, maybe it's a little flat this quarter, and we have some good explanation. Maybe an algorithm change happened last quarter, and we had some traffic declines. But overall, we're always looking up to the right. But that's changing. No longer can we validate all of our work by saying traffic's up to the right, because Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, all these engines are keeping our traffic. And they want to keep the user, and the users are staying in these ecosystems, which is great, but how do we know if our brand is visible and if what we're doing as marketing is effective? And so with that, we need a full new pack of metrics. So thinking about things like AI citations, AI mentions, market share in the LLMs, AI referral traffic, looking at your Google Console impressions. So again, we'll get to a little bit more tactically what you should be measuring, but the metrics, marketing metrics pack of the future of yesterday will have to change. And I think one of the more exciting opportunities for the folks in this room is content is the currency for LLMs. Content is data. Every LLM needs content to fuel it. Where do the answers of LLMs come from? They come from content. They come from all of your brands. And all of your brand's content comes from all of you. It comes from the wisdom that you've all been amassing in your teams and your businesses since their founding. And so it's our job to go into our businesses, extract the wisdom of our businesses, and create really good content, because that content is the fuel. That content is the currency. We've all said for years and years, content is the currency, content's king. We've all heard it. But it's so important, and with LLMs, it's never been more true. Content is data now. Okay, so let's talk about some pillars and ways to think about evolving your content strategy. And I'll build this slide out for folks, but I think when you think about old way of content strategy, yeah, I figured there'd be some photos for this one. The old way of your content strategy and the new way. There's sort of, as I like to think about it, there's the old way. So before AI was here, great. You had a limited volume of content because your team was limited. You may have lots, long approval processes. Maybe you got a couple pieces out a month on the blog or on the website, but you weren't doing a ton of volume. But that was okay. That was okay. And now with AI, it's really easy to generate a lot of content. And so that poses a new challenge, because how do you differentiate in a world where anyone can go into ChatGPT and create 50 blog posts in 20 minutes? Well, the content you produce, and one of the core pillars around winning in the AI engines and in the LLMs, is you need to create highly differentiated content. So high quality content is a must. You cannot just go create cheap, thin content. You will not win. The content has to be high quality. And that's when we saw at the first slide, companies that may have seen 50, 60% drops in traffic decline. A lot of that is because the content they were creating was thin, didn't really offer any unique expertise. And so when the LLMs went, they said, well, this company doesn't know about X, or this content's all thin. I'm not going to cite them. This isn't the best piece of content to answer this query. And they went somewhere else, which is different than what was happening with Google. Folks could get away with creating thin content, not in the world of the LLM. So you have to create highly differentiated content. Now, you also, in the world of AI, AI generates decent content, and we've all, I'm sure, put in some prompts into ChatGPT, gotten a piece of content out, but it's really generic, really generic content. You need to think about, how can I infuse the expertise of our business and of our teams into our content process, so the content you're creating, even if it's at scale, does have unique wisdom in it. How are you bringing expert quotes? How are you bringing research? How are you bringing data? How are you bringing customer stories, customer testimonials, and infusing that into the content? So even if it's a topic that maybe feel saturated in the space, you want to offer a unique perspective. And so to do that, to create really good, high quality content at scale that's differentiated, unique, that requires process. And we'll talk about process and how to think about building a process and thinking about piloting a new process in a few. But creating content one-off and creating it, allowing your teams to not work in a process will be difficult for you to win in the LLMs in the future, when the winners will be folks that are creating a lot of content, but a lot of really good content. Okay, so where do you start? And so as we think about our strategy, as we think about grounding in the LLMs of the future, what should we be doing? Well, first and foremost, we have to think about topics. So when we think the LLMs want to see folks that have topical authority. And so as brands, it's really important that we know what are the topic areas and subtopics that we want to win and be experts about. And so super important as you think about your content strategy, a great place to start is around mapping topical authority. And when you think about topical authority and finding the gaps in your topic authority, there's a bunch of different places to look. First, you want to make sure that for all the different queries that folks are putting in, that you know the intent behind them, and you have enough content to match and map to the different intents along the customer journey. You also want to look at your competitors. Where do my competitors have gaps, or where do I have gaps against my competitors? Which is not very different than our content strategy pre-LLM. You're always doing a content gap analysis against your competitors. You definitely want to do that to see where do we have opportunity to win topics, where are we winning topics. You also want to think about content quality. So are there topics or in subtopics that we may have content around, but as I mentioned earlier, it's thin, it's not showing up. It needs some optimizations. That's a great opportunity as well. And then you have to think about topical authority coverage. So maybe you have a great piece of content about a topic, but again, the LLMs are gonna reward brands that are experts across a topic. And so they wanna see breadth and depth. And so having one piece of content isn't enough. You need to be thinking about how can we essentially cover the full topic. And that means you have to have a lot of different types of content. And so types of content around a topic and cover all the different subtopics there. And then you want to think about the creation process. So once you have your topics mapped, once you think about, once you have your topics mapped, once you think about the gaps that you have, what you want to go after, you've prioritized your topics, how do you create content at scale? And we talked about this a little bit. You don't want to have a lot of thin, kind of crummy content. You want to think about how can we scale this process to create really high valuable content. And when we think about what we've seen from our customers and what's working and not working in the LLMs, really want to think about a few principles when it comes to creating content at scale. First and foremost, you want to have comprehensive coverage of a topic area. You also want to have clearly structured and logical data. We talked about schema a little bit. I know schema can be scary for some folks. That's okay. There are experts probably all over this place where you can network and meet that can help you with that. But it's really important that your content is structured well technically, that you have clear metadata, so H1s, H2s, H3s, all the things your SEO team may have been bothering you about for over the years. It's so important because AI bots are coming to your site, they're reading this content, and the more it's structured, the easier it is for them to read it and then reward you with AI visibility. You'll also want to bring in, as I mentioned, insights and data. So how can you, as a business, mine your organization and bring unique perspectives on a topic? Are there experts on your teams where you can quote them? Is there unique research or data you could be publishing based on the industry you're in? All of that can augment a topic or a piece of content that you're writing about and show the LLMs that you all are the authority on that and they should be citing you in AI. And then you want to think about just different ways that you can signal to the LLMs that you are authoritative. So are you using the right language? Are you demonstrating that you have authority and knowledge of the space? So all stuff to think about. Now, when you think about, let's go even a step further, when we think about the process of creating content, how do you make sure that it's actually good? Super important to use AI plus humans to create your content. There is not a way right now to win an AI just with AI content. It will be thin, it will be generic, and you won't get rewarded. And so at Conductor, we like to think about sort of this human-AI collaboration model for content. It's something we've pioneered on our own team. It's something our customers do really well. And so it's around having AI is great for certain parts of the process. Use it for AI research. Use it for your briefs. Use it for outlines. Use it for writing your first drafts. It's amazing. And you can certainly use it across the process, but it's so important to have that human in the loop. How are you bringing in the expertise? Who on your content team? How are they interacting with the AI along the way, along every different stages to make sure that it's not generic, it is valuable, it has unique wisdom, and they're infusing that. So human in the loop, expert in the loop, folks in the room may have heard those terms, but that's so important in this content process. And then we'd have to talk about measurement because that's changing, and our metrics pack, as we talked about a little bit earlier, is totally changing. And so things that we have to think about, what should you be measuring? You're like, okay, well, you said I can't really measure traffic anymore. Organic traffic's going down, not a great metric. So few ideas for everyone in this room as they're thinking about what should I be putting in my board presentation then? Or what should I be reporting to my CMO? AI visibility metrics. So how often are you mentioned and cited in AI for the topics that you care about? These are your AEO and GEO tools like Conductor that can help you measure this. They have, Conductor, for instance, has amazing kind of dashboards around how are you showing up, how is that trending over time, how are you showing up for the personas that you care about. So maybe your team's really focused on executives. Do you have good coverage there? Maybe you have less good coverage on a certain segment of your personas. Super important to show the progress over time of how you're mentioned and how you're visible in AI. Also, market share. We all reported on market share in the past when it comes to traditional SEO, but now you can actually show market share. So how are you showing up when it comes to in the AI engines compared to your competitors? And maybe the competitors you didn't even know about. So you may have a whole slew of competitors, potentially partners, that are showing up for the queries that you care about and the prompts that you care about. So how do you know what those are, who those new competitors are, the old competitors, and how do you make sure that you're creating content to reach them? Thinking about your AI ownership. So Google, although we spent a lot of time talking about ChatGPT and Perplexity, Google still, I think still has 90% of market share. So making sure that you're keeping an eye on your AIO ownership results over time. So how are you showing up in the AIO results at the top of Google? When you look at GSC, are your impressions going up? That's a good metric to bring into a board meeting. So thinking about the new metrics pack is super important. And then one other metric that folks may have not thought about, but there is your AI content authority score. So how is the content that you're creating, how well is it sort of suited for AI? And so you can get a red, yellow, green score for, is the content we're creating actually good content? Because one thing is to create a ton of content, but is it actually good content? So having some sort of a score of your content that you're creating with AI is also super important. Okay, strategy to roadmap. So took this from my team in 1H. We thought about, okay, so how do we do some of this stuff? It's one thing to be like, okay, don't use ChatGPT that much, or like use it in a thoughtful way, or infuse wisdom. But how can you actually think about doing this at scale and creating a process? Because as we talked about, doing this ad hoc just won't scale. And we all need scale, but we need scale with quality. So first and foremost, really there's 4 steps here. So first and foremost is the assessment. So first, auditing your current content performance. This is very similar to a year and a half ago when you were building your content strategy before AI. Auditing, seeing what's working, what's not working, looking at the bottlenecks in your process. So is governance taking a really long time? Is this one part of the process taking a long time? Is briefing taking long? Where are the bottlenecks in your process? How are the competitors doing? And what are the baseline metrics? So having some sort of tooling around measuring that AI visibility and AI citations, super important at this step. Just to get your baseline and sort of understand where you are and where you're starting from. Because then you get into the strategy development piece. So defining the topic clusters that will have the most business impact. So we talked about the topical authority. So what topics are important to your business? There's gonna be a lot of them. You have to prioritize. What are the ones that you want to prioritize? What are gonna have the most impact? Where should you put your calories? We all get told we need to do more with less, and so you're not gonna be able to cover every topic, and so you have to start thinking about prioritization of that content over time. And then thinking about, as we mentioned earlier, a content production framework. So where do you wanna have humans in the loop? Where is it important that you have your content team thinking about wisdom and infusing data and insights into your content? And so thinking about that and scaling that process, super important at this step. And then as I mentioned, getting your AI tooling set up for new measurement. And then what I recommend, what I've seen be really successful for folks, is start with a pilot. You're not gonna be able to scale to 1 billion pieces of content overnight, although some folks may tell you you can. It's really important to start with a pilot. So I recommend what my team did, which we found really successful, is prioritizing certain topic clusters. So what are the topic clusters that are really important for you as a business? Let's work on creating a process around really saturating those topic areas. So how can I create a process where I can create AI content at scale, that's high quality, and do that at scale around certain topics and get really good at it. When we first started doing this, we realized the first batch of content we created, not that good. And so it took a little while for our content team to get in kind of a rhythm of like, how much time should I be putting in as the expert? How much should I be leaning on AI? Did I lean in too much on AI for this piece and that piece? So really thinking about that, really helpful when you do it in a pilot, because you can really start to fine tune the process and sort of start to see what's working, what's not working before you roll it out more broadly. Because once you have a really good process, once you've sort of done this with a few topics, then you can scale, and then you can do your ongoing optimizations. So really that's where you can start expanding, developing training with your internal teams to get them bought in and using the process, really important. So as we think about the implementation roadmap, assessment, again, not a crazy new from a content strategy perspective. We've all many of us have built content strategies before. A lot of these steps feel and look familiar, but it's super important when we think about how and where are we using AI in the process. So assessment, strategy development, launch our pilot, get really good at creating AI plus human content, and then you can scale. Awesome, so I think that's it then. Awesome. So I think we have it looks like 4 minutes for questions if folks have questions. And then I think, yeah, thanks everyone. Oh, question. Yep. We have a mic.
Thank you. Hi, I just had a question about the trust when you talked about, collaborating with partners and publishers.
Yeah.
Is that replacing the traditional authority metrics like page equity and link and domain authority? Or is that, do the AI models consider that when they're ranking content?
Sorry, it's hard to hear you.
I can talk loud.
Yeah, you want to ask one more time?
I'm just curious about the trust metrics.
Oh, yeah.
Using publishers, collaborating with partners, is that replacing the more traditional model of page equity and domain authority with backlinking? Or is it something that we now need to consider in addition to?
This would be additional. So thinking about how are the Reddit and Quora and all these forums, it's really something you'll want to partner with, probably depending on your organization, but your PR team, your team that's working with different folks around what are the right publishers, the forums, where are the different places and strategies where we should be thinking about partnering with folks. So when someone's searching, let's say, best running shoes for women in their 30s, maybe you're not coming up, but maybe there's a Reddit forum or Quora that is coming up, and you want them to have the most updated product information for you. You want them to be saying the right things about you. What you wouldn't want is having either a competitor come up or having just really outdated information, which is typically what we see. A lot of the forums and things that these LLMs are pulling from can be quite old, just given how old Quora and Reddit are and how often they're updated and things like that. So that's how I think about it. Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. Drop me a note on LinkedIn and I can get them for you.
What are your thoughts on reusing content from videos? My firm's been creating videos since 2016 or so, and then trying to use that somehow because it's organic. AI didn't exist at the time, and sort of using that as the real and the thought leader content to sort of recycle it through what you were talking about.
Oh, 100%, absolutely. Do it. If you don't have video content, you should be thinking about video content. It's an amazing source of authority. You can get the transcripts from your video content, make sure that they're on the pages so the LLMs can read them. But video is, there's a lot of authority that comes with video, and it should certainly be a pillar of your strategy.
Do you have to still worry about it being duplicative, like something that was published, in 2018, and also now it's 2025, and you just kind of repurposing it?
It depends. I don't know where these videos live. On your website, I would certainly be a little bit worried about duplicative content. So if you're going to republish it, you can just republish you can just do it as a page optimization. So if it's living on your website
So it's on YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube, yeah. So you can think about either updating it, the description, and giving it a lot more copy with it. But I wouldn't worry about if it's 2018. I'm sure it has a lot of views and things like that, and it has its own authority. But you could also certainly think about bringing the transcripts onto your website too if you want to drive folks there. That's a great way for it to get authority.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Oh. I'll repeat your question.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. I'll repeat your question.
for instance.
Yeah. Oh.
And so what percentage of that content should we put onto an actual web page? Are there types of content that we should prioritize doing? Like, should everything be a web page and a PDF?
Yeah, I just went on this journey with my team, and I'm sure many of you are similar. Like, you have amazing PDFs, they're behind a gate, and they're like beautiful and designed, and it's a research report. You really should get them out of PDFs. It's really hard for the LLMs to crawl them, and if you look at, one thing you can do is look at your AI bot traffic and see where the AI bots are going on your site, and what you'll probably see is, although they say they can crawl PDFs, they're probably not getting to your PDFs, and so I would recommend going in and converting all of them. We just went on this journey. My content team was like, really? And so, but we had to do it, because that's like probably some of your most authoritative content too. It's your research, that's like the gold. And so to have that not crawlable by the LLMs is not something you want.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Can I ask a follow-up off of
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Did you guys do that all in-house, or did you guys partner with like a third-party company to kind of?
We did it all in-house, and we didn't convert every PDF at once. But over time, we certainly want to get there. So we have a queue. Any new piece of content or research, we're getting out of PDF land. We're also using, we have a great SEO, and so she's helping us sort of prioritize that and getting off of the PDF. But yeah, it's not something you have to do all on day one, and you're certainly getting some authority from them, but it's definitely a best practice to get off of them. And yes, happy to talk more about the PDFs journey, because we just did that. Awesome. I think we're at time, but I'll be up here if anyone else has questions, and obviously happy to connect on LinkedIn. Thanks, everyone.